experience will pass. A love once felt seems to be lost. Thought comes in with this or that. The bliss makes space for feeling flat. We're holding on to at all cost. It's so simple, it's bizarre. Love is who you really are. Love is freedom, love is truth, love is consciousness, it's you. You're not that old repertoire. There is nothing outside of love. There is only you. Everywhere you look, everything you touch, every experience, it is all a plain you. Sometimes clarity, sometimes smoke. You're sometimes rich, you're sometimes broke. You're going up, you're feeling down. It looks so great, but now you're drowned. Can't you see it's all a joke? Because there is nothing outside of love. There is only you. Everywhere you look, everything you touch, every experience, it is all a plain you. There is nothing outside of love. There is only you. Everywhere you look, everything you touch, every experience, it is all a plain you. It is all a plain you. It is just a game in you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Lovely to see you all. And welcome to those of you who are also watching on YouTube. You won't be able to participate, but that's okay. Maybe next time you can join the Zoom and then you can actually have a chance to ask questions or, have a dialogue, participate. Any comments on YouTube I can't respond to. And also welcome to new people joining us for the first time. Lovely to see you. And of course, to those who are regulars, it's always lovely to see you. Yeah. So this open webinar is on the theme of what does die to love mean? But before we get into that, we'll start with a short guided meditation. So if you just sit comfortably and you can close your eyes, take some deep breaths just to settle into where you're sitting, settle into the body. With each breath, deepening into this present experience, whatever it is for you, taking some time to scan this body, just noticing whatever is here. Any physical or emotional sensations, just acknowledging them. They're all welcome to be here, whatever is here. Noticing if there is any thought commentary about anything that's happening. That's also welcome to be here, just like any other sensation. These are thought sensations, and we don't give them any more value or meaning than any other sensation. So if a thought story starts to play out and your attention is going more to that, just gently bring it back to whatever other sensations are happening presently, to the present experience rather than the fantasy of the thought story. Noticing any sounds. I have a buzzing fly just near me, so I'm noticing that. But you may notice any other background sounds. Noticing any sounds coming from this body, whether it's the sound of the breath or some gurgling in the belly or anything else. And we just check in with this human, how he or she is feeling right now. How are you feeling being here in this meeting now? What are you bringing to this meeting? And as we Notice all this that is going on for this human in this human experience. There is the awareness of this human, the awareness of whatever experience is happening right now. The knowing, the seeing of it all. And this awareness is not an experience. It is that knows the experience. It is the container, you could say, for the experience. It is the background, the blank screen on which the movie of this human experience plays. And this is known beyond thinking, beyond feeling, beyond imagination, beyond all words and concepts, beyond belief or faith. It is known in a way that it can't be understood by the mind. And yet, it is known because it's you. It may not be consciously recognized, but it is always known. So at any point when you do consciously recognize it, there's just such a sense of familiarity and intimacy, knowing that this has always been here. This is nothing new. This is so familiar because it's you. And another word for this awareness that you are is love. You are love. And this is the love that embraces and includes everything that's here. That's why we use the word love. Unconditional knowing, unconditional acceptance of whatever is here. This is who you are. So let's take some deeper breaths. Again, just coming back to this body, this human experience. Breathing in some life energy. Bringing the attention to the bum on the seat and the feet on the ground. And when you're ready, we can open our eyes. So I thought I'd start today's session about what do I mean by Die to Love, by actually reading a little bit from my book, Die to Love, right? Because in a way, this little bit gives a sense of the meaning. I mean, yeah, I could choose it. I could have chosen any bit, but I like this bit. So, yeah. Ask yourself if you're willing to die to know the truth. Nothing less will do. To know the love that you are, you as you know yourself, your ego, will need to die. This is not the death of the body. This is a jump into the unknown. It is the last thing that you do before you are no more. No more just testing the waters out of curiosity. No more playing with words and concepts. True love demands nothing less than full immersion. To die to love is a complete surrender. It is truly realizing that no experience, no concept, no meaning, no state, no condition, no person can provide the peace that you long for. This is the end of all that. So over the years, since I wrote that book, and also since I've had Die to Love as the name of my website, people have asked me, what do you mean by Die to Love? Because it doesn't seem to fit. How can you put die and love in the same sentence? They seem to be almost contradictory. And that's because usually we think of love as being a sweet experience, or about loving someone or something, having a certain high experience, or expansive experience. But the love that I'm pointing to is actually what I was pointing to in the guided meditation, is who you are, right? So it is essentially what I'm saying is it's an invitation to die to who you really are. In other words, the one that you have believed yourself to be, the story of me, the person that you have believed yourself to be in your life, the history, the qualities, the ups and the downs, the traumas, the achievements, everything that you have believed yourself to be, including the body and all its pain and pleasure and everything, that the belief that that is who you are, it needs to be seen to actually not be the truth of who you are. So that's the death. Sorry, I have this fly that keeps flying on my nose. Yeah, that's the death that I'm talking about, the death of who you think you are. And it's a dying into or to love. So it's like a drowning, in a sense, a disappearing, an absolute surrender. of who you think you are to who you really are. So it's a losing yourself, a free fall in not defining, not knowing, not grasping, not owning or having any ground that you call yourself, any identity, any location, any fixed reference point. It's a total free fall in love, in that not knowing, in that awareness that you are, that is simply aware, but it has no boundaries. It has no location. It has no particular flavor or experience. So what I'm talking about is not a particular experience. You may have an experience when you first recognize it. Many people have a sense of expansion when they first recognize who they really are. But that experience will no doubt pass eventually. So we have to see that actually the true recognition or the true knowing of who you are has got nothing to do with any kind of expansive experience. It is what you recognize in the midst of any kind of beautiful expansive experience. And that is the love that you are. It's not a feeling of love. It's not a high experience. I use the word love because I'm still speaking about the awareness that you are, but I use the word love in this case now just to point to let's say, a different aspect of that awareness. It's the same thing really, but just different way of speaking about it. That this awareness is aware no matter what. It doesn't care whether you are feeling good or you're not feeling good. It doesn't care whether you are a murderer or a saint. It doesn't care whether you are super spiritual or you get drunk every day. It doesn't care. It is aware. That's all it does. That's all it is. It's unconditionally accepting of whatever is here. That's why we call it like the background, because it's unconditional. It just is aware. So it doesn't give you, points for being more spiritual or meditating longer or sitting in the lotus position. It's just simply aware, And this is beautiful also because it is unconditionally loving, by being simply aware. So even if you are, in a mess in your human experience, this that you are loves it all, no matter what. So this is the freedom of this unconditional love, that it is so boundless that it's beyond imagination. It's beyond the mind. The mind can't grasp how unconditional it really is. And that's your true nature. You are this wide, wide, wide openness. You are not limited. Although in the human experience, of course, there are many limits. There are the limits of this body, right? We can't walk through walls, or, we're always going to have certain issues with this human body, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. This human's a bit messy, But if we see the nature of these limitations, the nature of this human, nature of the thinking, that it's a beautiful tool, but it can never know the truth of who we are. It is always going to be limited. When we see the nature of it, there is such an unconditional love because we identify with that awareness of this human. We see it. Doesn't mean that we don't feel it. We experience it fully. And yet simultaneously there is this seeing, this knowing of it. And this is where there is a dying to love, where the belief in a separate me, that somehow my thoughts, believing that my thoughts define who I am, or believing that my thoughts really mean something about who I am, that I am the story that I tell myself. And we see that actually all these stories, all these beliefs about me are not actually referring to anyone in here. We have to investigate that. We have to check for ourselves and check, is there someone in here? And when we truly recognize that there is no one, no separate entity, there is simply experience happening. This is the recognition that actually I am not. This is the death. And you see that actually there is simply life living, or love living. It's the same. We could call it many different things, you know. It's none of these words, but it's all of them. So it's life living itself. It's life living this human. It's not that I'm living my life. It's life is living me as this human. Yeah. And this is the death. And it can be different for every individual. Some people describe this death or this recognition or waking up to be a very big experience. Like they might have some expansive state experienced. It might really feel like a death. In other words, the body might actually go through a lot of physical or emotional experiences. It can come along with a sense of grief and loss. Losing who you thought you were can be quite devastating, but it can also be very freeing, can be very blissful and beautiful. But whatever the experience is, that's not the point. The experience will go on changing and changing. But who you are as love itself, life itself, you never change. You are simply aware, constant, timeless, always here, always aware. So I'd love to hear from you now. If you have any question about anything I've said, you're welcome to raise your hand. And you can also type a question in the chat, but I will give priority to someone who wants to have a video dialogue, just because I prefer that. But if we have time at the end, I'll respond to any questions in the chat. Can also be comments, doesn't have to be always questions. Can be something to share. No one has any questions. Obviously, it's all absolutely clear. Ravi.
Namaste.
Namaste. I can't see. Where are you? Oh, there. Yes.
Yeah, is my voice coming through?
Sorry?
Is my voice clear?
Yes, now it is. I just raised the volume. There we
Great. Thank you. So, do you think the fly is trying incessantly to die in order to feel your love?
go. Sorry, I missed the first part.
Yeah, that was just a joke. Anyway.
I'd love to hear the joke.
Yeah, I was just commenting on the fly that is all around you, and you said like it's doing so.
At the moment, he's sitting on the camera, so I'll just.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, my question is there a thing like, spiritual luxury or something like that? Like there is no real, haste or, seriousness to get the whole thing, and then people can kind of like sit on it for a while. Like this is my experience that, in a way, I'm kind of like feel like I'm stuck, and there is not much flow, and it is not helping on either side of like the materialistic life as well as the spiritual advancement. But I also have listened and then seen people who really are on fire. They caught on, like even Nisargadatta Maharaj, the one meeting with his master, and straight away he caught it, and then there is nothing else for him to do, straight away on it. And here I am, over a decade, just devouring YouTube videos, becoming a professional satsangi, going to one satsang after another satsang. Feels like I have that luxury, but still feeling stuck with the flow.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I can do to really kind of like get off my bum and kind of like,
Well, this is the thing with our modern culture, isn't it? That it's just so available. You can watch YouTube clips all day, all night from the comfort of your home. You never need to lift a finger, whereas in the past, you needed to climb a mountain to get to the monastery, or you needed to find a teacher by traveling far, walking, whatever, you needed to actually physically do something or go somewhere. And even then, when you got to the teacher, you had to kind of prove that you were ready. And so because of our modern culture, it's just become a bit devalued. I mean, it isn't devalued. It can never be devalued, but in our society, it's become a bit devalued. So, it's about finding the value of it again in your own experience. And that means finding, discovering what it actually means beyond the intellect, because it's the intellect that devalues it. It's the intellect that says, yeah, I know this already. I've heard these words, or this teacher says it's, differently to that teacher. I want to prefer this one, maybe what do they mean by this? And it becomes like this intellectual game or a hobby or something, But actually, one of the reasons why I like to use the word die to love is because it is a matter of life or death. It must be, it needs to be that fire. It's not that it has to always feel like that, but it's about discovering, that real passion in yourself. And sometimes that passion can feel very uncomfortable and very painful. It can even be anger, sometimes we become kind of almost numbed out, partly because we're suppressing anger or life energy. It might not always be anger, but it's that kind of energy. It's a fiery passion for life, and so in your experience, maybe, how can you find ways in yourself to get out of your head into your body, right? To stop playing around, with I'm not saying I don't know what you're doing exactly personally, but, to stop just watching YouTube videos, but like be touched by life. Maybe it means going and seeing a live teacher, sitting with someone, maybe it means traveling somewhere and putting yourself in a situation, do it old school. It makes such a difference when you actually put yourself in a situation which challenges you. It wakes something up in you also on the human level, to see that, you are not all these thoughts, even these non-dual beautiful concepts. It's too safe sitting at home watching YouTube videos. It's way too safe. You need to put yourself in the fire somehow. And the safe way of watching YouTube videos is that a teacher can't actually say, hey, where are you at? Expose yourself, show yourself, right? But if you sit with a teacher, then it's much more scary, right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Caroline, nice to see you.
Right. Hello. So nice to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while.
The question is that one can have times of feeling, having died to love, so to speak, and the ego is not there and thoughts are not there, and it is heavenly. However, the ego, the question is, I don't experience the ego or the frontal personality as ever leaving me. Rather, I have learned to pay much less attention to it when it speaks to me, or when occasionally it does happen that even in a meditative setting, all of a sudden the mind has come up with some fancy story, because I'm not going to go away with too much of the normal trough and dross and trough, but some exotic little plan or a story suddenly, and there's a temptation. All of a sudden I find that and I think, I'm there, I'm with that journey, so I can bring myself back pretty quickly. But the ego has a determination almost to keep you from dying to love. So is this a continuous vigilance one must keep always? Because I don't know really if the ego ever dies in itself totally, but there as a working mind, you could say instead, if you keep it as your servant. That's the trick for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think it ever dies to love as the true self burns in the love at those lovely times, but the ego is always in the background. So how does one minimize its effect on one's life always? And will it always be there lurking?
Yeah, well said. I mean, this is a paradox, this whole thing, this awakening thing, because on one hand, we do have this recognition where you first recognize, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not who I thought I was. And in that, there is a dying to love, right? But then after the experience of that might fade and normal life goes on, you realize, well, actually the human and my thoughts and the whole story is still there. It's just that there's something that has changed radically. You might not even be able to put your finger on what exactly has changed, but something has radically changed. You know, when you're not referring to the experience, because the experience can change, but it's like where you are seeing the me from has changed. So before you might have taken yourself to really be that me, and now you are identifying with that awareness of it all, and you're watching the me. And so then you can see that the me is running around being a me, being a human in its daily whatever it's going on for its in its life, and you're experiencing it all fully. It's not that you are somehow distant from it. You're fully in it, as the human, but at the same time, you're aware of her, him. And this is it's a subtle difference, but it's also massive. As that awareness, when you identify with that awareness, then whatever is going on for the human is happening in you. So the thought stories, the emotions, the sensations, all of it is still there, as if there is a me, as if there is a separate me still. It's just that you don't take yourself to be limited to that. So all the stories go on, but you're not limited by that. And that's a massive difference. A lot of spiritual seekers expect that it's somehow a magic wand and all the human mess will be miraculously cleaned up when you wake up to who you really are. And it's not that. In fact, this dying to love is like the beginning. It's step one, you could say, if we're going to have steps. You know, it's the most fundamental, basic recognition. And then that's where the interesting part starts, where you start to see that I'm not this, and I'm not that, and I'm not this, and I'm not that. And it goes on and on and on for the rest of your life. But always, once you've recognized, always you know that I am that awareness of it. But that awareness becomes like an embrace for the human. So no matter what she's processing or what is being seen through, or what ups and downs she's experiencing in her life, that knowing, that love, you could say, is like this embrace holding, creating a sense of safety for this human to go through all kinds of hellish realms, right? Or beautiful experiences. But none of it means anything about who I am, who I really am. And that makes such a difference. It just takes the seriousness off. You know, even if you might be going through some heavy stuff in your life, it's not serious. It's not like, it doesn't carry an extra meaning for me. And that makes such a difference. I don't know if that answers your question.
I kind of think nowadays that all feelings are fairly neutral, that some days, for no particular reason, I feel quite happy, content, joyful, for no particular reason. And another day, maybe because I didn't sleep so well, so my energy is a bit down, that is not good for me, I can feel a bit deflated, a bit like that. And I've come to realize that they're all quite neutral, and I've learned to be able to look at it and myself feeling a bit flat or feeling a bit high for no reason, and holding it all, trying to hold it all with compassion for myself.
Yeah, that's
the only way to do it for me, to hold it all with some compassion.
And that's another word for who you are, you know, who you really are. We could change the word to compassion, you know, because it's so unconditionally accepting of whatever is here for the human experience, that is the compassion, you know, that's the holding. It's like, whatever you're going through, I'm here, right? It's the ultimate parent. It's the parent that we would have all loved to have. You know, that no matter what you're going through, I'm here, I'm with you, I meet you in everything, without exception. Yeah.
And I suddenly thought about a phrase in the Old Testament. I think I've got it more or less right. And I was reading it one day, and it said, the greatest sin is for you to forget yourself. It actually says in the Old Testament something like that, my words.
Yeah.
That is, it takes a lot to realize the truth of the biggest sin is not of what you do for others necessarily, but the biggest sin is against yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the word sin, of course, carries
forgetting yourself.
Absolutely, but the word sin, of course, carries some heavy judgment and religious connotations. But I get what you mean, and it's such this is the agony of our existence, you know, as humans, that we are. This is the source of our deepest longing, to come home to ourselves. You know, and when we don't acknowledge our true self, then we live in a kind of a hellish way, or we numb ourselves out so we don't feel it. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
Okay. Lisette.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask, I kind of get things conceptually, which is not really so helpful. Is it unhelpful to actually effort to stand back from the ego, from all the stuff? Is it, because I feel that in order to do it, I can't just, I need to make an effort, and somehow it feels that efforting is not what we want here. So I'm getting a bit confused.
Yeah, we're so used to making efforts to arrive at any achievement in our human lives that it's hard to stop making effort.
Yes.
That's the only thing we know to do, right?
Yes.
I
see myself trying to stand back, trying to be aware of what's going on in my human.
Yeah, this is the mind trying to help.
Yeah.
And it's really trying, you know. We can have compassion for the mind in this case, you know. It's really it's the only tool that we are used to using, and so it's trying desperately to help in the same way as it has helped in many other areas of the human life. It's trying also here. But when the mind tries to, sorry, I've just got a dog just come in. Anyway, dog and a fly. Yeah, when the mind tries to do it, you know, this is a natural thing. So there's nothing wrong. You know, when we try to now stop doing, this is also going to create a fight. Yeah. So you know, there's no need to beat yourself up about it. But you can see that this is all happening, you know. So you are aware. This is how you can tell me this. You've just told me that this is what's happened. You know, in your experience, you're making effort, and this you can tell me this because you know that this is happening, and that knowing that it's happening, that is the awareness. So you are watching the mind try to be aware, but you are watching it. So you are aware of the mind trying to be aware. So that awareness doesn't take any effort. It's already here. In the same way as you are aware of this conversation happening. You don't try to be aware. The mind might try to be aware, but that's something that's happening in the awareness. You are already aware. It's actually so easy because it's already happening. You can't not be aware. That's how easy it is. You know? And then the mind trying to do it is just a game in you. You know? You don't have to take it so seriously. Like it's just, okay, the mind playing its game of trying to do this. Okay, let it play, let it try, you know. It can't hurt.
So when I notice, and I just got to relax, basically, just
Yeah, it's just the mind. You can just say it's like one thought can say to the other thoughts, you're just a thought. You know, and then they're all thoughts, of course, but sometimes one thought can be helpful to tell the other thoughts, you're just thoughts. So you can't do it. It's impossible to be done by thought. But at the same time, you are aware of all the thoughts. You can't not be. You can experiment, you know, wherever you go, whatever you do, check, you know, anytime you remember, am I aware of what's happening? Well, of course I am. Otherwise, how would I know it's happening? Yeah.
Thank you.
Marit.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is about the meaning of things, and you say that none of it means anything, and this phrase has actually helped me a lot and helped me not identify myself with this person, even when there are emotions that are not comfortable for me, like anger or like some other intense feelings. So my question is there like a bigger meaning that the ego can't see? Like it feels like life or love or whatever that is has some kind of like super intelligence to make things work so magically, even if it doesn't feel good at some time, like some feelings or some situations. And yet, for example, with anger, I feel like it's really helping me to learn more about myself and my boundaries and what is okay and what is not okay. So even though I don't want to feel this feeling, it still somehow feels like love. So I guess my mind wants to know if love has a plan for everything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you see that all the mental meanings are not true, this gives a wide open space where at first it might feel very disorientating and you might feel quite lost without relying on the mental meanings. But then it also gives more space to be more and more sensitive to another kind of meaning, let's say, a sense that it is all, there is a perfection in however it is, even if we don't understand it, even if it feels uncomfortable, but there is a perfection in the flow of energy, in the way things unfold individually in your personal life, but also in the world, or in, you know, groups of people or whatever, and the way things happen. Yeah, there is a sense, maybe meaning. I wouldn't use that word so much, but there's kind of there is a sense of perfection. Yeah, and I can't really say to you what it is or something. It's more like you kind of tune into that. When you identify yourself with that, then there's like a trust that even if I don't get or don't understand or don't know, still I surrender to that greater meaning, a greater sense of flow. So there's no choice anymore. It's just, okay, that's just how it is. That's the higher meaning, you could say.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So maybe I'll just see if there are any questions on the chat. So Maria, my English is a little bit poor, but I try. My question is is it necessary to make a process recognizing all kind of feelings? Well, you don't need to make a process. I feel like these feelings are kind of out of control, right? They come up, but maybe what you mean is like when a feeling comes, maybe you want to investigate the story or the trigger behind that. I don't know if that's what you mean. If you want to clarify your question, then you're welcome to say something.
I want to, yes.
Yes.
I try. I can recognize now some kind of feelings without doing something, and it floats, and I have no mind, no, what do you call it? Meaning to it. But there are also some feelings I found it difficult, and then I want to hide for it. So feelings like to be afraid, or things like that. And then my question was: is it necessary to accept every feeling without any, about it?
I mean, it's it's a natural human response to uncomfortable feelings to want to make it better by, or numb out, or to distract yourself from these feelings. but where possible, if you can, to sit with these feelings, you know, to stay with them. And it doesn't have to be that you understand intellectually what they mean or what the story is, although sometimes that can be also helpful. But to just stay with that feeling, because you may discover that it's not as bad as you thought. You know,
but when it happens, when you meet someone and then the feelings arise, is it also helpful when you do it afterwards?
Sure. Yeah. Anytime. I mean, there's no, you know, to recognize the truth of who you are, none of that is going to help, you know. It's more about your human experience, right? So in the human experience, of course, you know, some feelings are very compelling, and we also identify strongly with the stories that trigger feelings.
Yes.
And so we can investigate, you know, what was triggered, what identity was triggered in that interaction with someone, for example. You know, did I suddenly feel that I needed to, did I suddenly feel threatened, for example? And what was threatened? What was I afraid of? You know, we can investigate, you know, and in that we start to feel perhaps some of the layers underneath those feelings. There may be fear, but there may be also shame or anger or, you know, other feelings there to feel once we get more and more honest with ourselves. And this can open the situation much more when we get more and more honest with ourselves.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, this is not a question. Just want to thank you, Mani, for your fierce authenticity. Thank you. It's always inspired me. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Cool. And then Amber, I appreciate you and your work so much. Your voice alone soothes my body. I was on a live call with you, and my best friend Adam a few years ago died from suicide when he was living with my family. It's been too hard for me to see you since. I'm over that now, and I love you. Thank you so much. Oh, that's really touching. Thank you. Yeah, it's so lovely when people kind of come back after a long time away, or they will share what has been touched. Yeah, just you know, sometimes when I'm talking to the screen here, you know, it's so beautiful to hear how actually it goes beyond the screen to actual real people out there. Yeah, thank you for saying that and sharing that. Okay, well, does anyone else have anything they want to say or ask before we end? Jean-Marc, yeah.
How do I know I've recognized my true nature? Because I had some experiences, maybe expansion, not so much, but terror, for example, everything stops. And then life goes on and you're left with nothing. Thought is left with nothing. So how do I know that I've recognized this true nature?
The thinking will never know. You know, that's the thing. The thinking will never have proof that it can say, right, I've got this now. So then for that reason, it's frustrating and confusing, you know, because you can never have something in your hand, like there's no certificate that you get. But on the other hand, there is also a sense that you see that the thinking is not in charge. The thinking is a tool. And that seems to be a subtle shift, but it's also, yeah, it's massive. And yeah, the way you're perceiving the thinking as just, you're not holding on to everything it says and making it mean something about me. And I would say that that means that you've recognized your true nature.
Mhm.
And knowing you for quite some years now, Jean-Marc, I feel that there's no question, you have definitely recognized your true nature. You know, but thought can doubt
But
it.
the thinking comes back quite regularly, and
Yeah, okay, but that's
Okay.
okay. That's the thinking. It doesn't mean, it doesn't disturb who you are. It's just the thinking, doing its job of thinking. You know, and it's, you know, as we were saying before with Caroline, that it is an ongoing seeing through these stories. You know, now that there's thinking, doubting, questioning. So, okay, those thoughts can be there, those questions can be there. And it's great that here is the space you can actually kind of dump them, or in a way there's like an offering them up on an altar. Okay, I surrender these ones, I give them up. Yeah, and then there's a seeing that this too, you know, is just a thought. That thought can't ever know for sure, so it will go on doubting and questioning, but you don't have to take those thoughts seriously. You can see them for what they are and have compassion for them, you know. Okay, thank you, Jean-Marc. Is that Karen? Have you got your hand up? Yes. Okay, hi. Can't hear you, Karen. You got to unmute yourself.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, my last question was,
Oh, no, sorry. Karen. There's a Karen H.
okay.
Yes. Sorry, Caroline. not
Oh,
you.
okay, there I am.
Yes.
Can you see me? Okay. Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go for it.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. My question is about, can the awareness and the thinking happen kind of simultaneously? And when you realize, oh, these are thoughts, and you just, for myself, it's like I just sit back a tiny bit more, and then I feel like I'm more available to watching how the unfolding and working on not having an attachment to how it unfolds itself. And like Carolyn was speaking about the efforting, and my words were the diligence and the urgency for the breakthrough. And that is a storyline about having a breakthrough, I believe. But the diligence and the urgency is kind of the thoughts, where the patience of just sitting back into the layer of awareness. Or I got this all jumbled up. Am I making any sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there a question in there, or
is there a question in there? Well, I guess the question was do thinking and awareness, can they be happening simultaneously, that you can kind of see? I'm almost wondering if I'm making a third thing, that there's awareness happening and there's thinking happening, and I get to decide what, the awareness is like I say, is more expansive.
Yeah.
Yet I'm watching the thinking like kind of climb in over that awareness. And
Yeah.
it's like, no. Let's
No,
just stay
okay.
back here.
All right, I get you now. So, so yes, you are making extra identities there, for sure. You're working very hard, or let's say the thinking is working very hard to do this. You are not working hard at all. You're just watching the whole show.
Yeah.
Right. But so first of all, you've got an imagined state of awareness that you're imagining, or that perhaps you experience sometimes, like a certain distance from the experience, but that also is another experience. The awareness that I'm speaking about is beyond that too. Right?
Okay.
So it's not something that you can jump in between, you know. You can't jump from awareness to thinking. And this is actually a confusion that I think many people have. Many people talk about a kind of flip-flopping. Once they recognize awareness, then there's a kind of flip-flopping that happens for a while. And it's not actually a flip-flopping. It's not that you can identify with awareness and then you flip to identifying with something else. It's that you are awareness always. And then in that, the thinking comes. Yeah. You know? Okay. And then when the thinking comes, the old habit is that you're like, oh, this is important here now. This means something about me. But the awareness doesn't move, doesn't change, you know. So in that awareness, there is, there is this state or imagined state of awareness, and then there's the thinking, and then you've kind of got a third one where you're like imagining yourself to be another one that is jumping between the two. But in fact, all this moving around and trying to be this and trying to be that, it's all a joke, really, because you're watching it all and you're not moving.
Stop the efforting.
I mean, you don't have to stop the efforting. You can't stop it. It's the nature of the mind. It's the nature of the body. It's doing stuff all the time. It's just that that's not the point. Whether you do or whether you don't do, it's irrelevant.
Right.
That's not the point. It's beyond that.
Because what I'm getting hooked on is that there's a breakthrough, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, for some people there's a sudden breakthrough, but for some people it's also very gradual. So, it might be that you have a sudden recognition, but even that can be kind of a subtle thing. So I wouldn't wait, although, your mind will do whatever it does, but, waiting for some kind of sudden breakthrough might not necessarily go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just food for thought, it just feeds hope of a one day I'll get it, one day I'll have proof that I've got it. But
it's already here.
It is, yeah, you're just watching yourself waiting for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Try that on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I mean, essentially, it's about resonating, and resonating doesn't take any effort. When you hear me speak about it, for example, you might have a resonating with what I'm pointing to, and this is like a ringing bell in you, and your thoughts want to do something with it, but there's a sense of a kind of a getting it or knowing this that's already there. Doesn't require any effort. So it's actually just seeing that all effort is of the mind. There's no problem. You don't have to do anything about that. It's just a kind of, there's a much more subtle relaxing back, watching the effort, like, oh, I'm not making any effort. Oh. Even while your body and your mind might be making lots of effort, you're not moving. And this is the paradox. Huh? Okay, see one more comment on the chat. Dennis, I've been following you for years, and I recall a video when someone was disturbed by something and you asked her, who is disturbed? Thought? I felt a definite shift inside, like a jolt, and felt less identification with thought. Thank you. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I think we've come to the end of our time for today, and it's I can see the sun's going down. I'm getting darker and darker in here. So as are some of you. And just to let you know that next month's theme is this question, who am I? So you're welcome to join me on that one, with that one. And then this Thursday, I'm holding a grief circle online for anybody who has lost a loved one, but also anyone who's gone through or is going through any kind of ending of any particular time of their life or change, big change, any grieving. You can, we'll be exploring it together this Thursday. So that's the 14th in the evening. And yeah, also in November, I'll be holding a retreat here in Portugal. And it's called A Call to Awaken. And it's, yeah, a week here in beautiful Algarve. And it'll be lovely to see. I know some of you are coming, but it'll be lovely to see more of you join me. And if you can't actually come in person, you can also join online. But of course, it's much better if you come in person. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's been such a gift. Yeah. Thanks. See you next time. Lots of love. Thank you. Bye.